Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Oh, my goodness. We are back for another session with Coaching Conversations with Coach Vet and Coach
Shayna,
Shayna.
good morning,
Yes. Oh,
everyone.
good morning. This week is going to be awesome because we are talking about vision and strategy in 2024. And I know that it's just maybe the second week or going into the second full week of the year. And I'm excited. I'm still thinking about goals. I'm still thinking about strategy and my vision and where I want to go. And I know we were kind of talking about it last week that we were going to discuss this. So I think this is a perfect time and a perfect conversation to have with everyone right now. And so we'll just dive right into it. Shana, do you have any I guess beginning thoughts in reference to vision and strategy?
I guess I have like a main thing. So you have to know where you are to figure out where you're going.
Mm.
So that's kind of where I start everyone off. So if you think about, I don't know, when you're traveling somewhere and you need to use Google Maps or MapQuest or anything like that, they require you to put in a starting destination. So you really have to zone in on where you currently are, what's working well, what's not working well, and then you need a vision. So where are you going? Where is your destination? And then the directions to get there, or the strategies, would be the directions to get there.
I like that. That's powerful. And the thing about being a leader is having a vision. Having a vision for
Mhm.
yourself, having a vision for your team, and really having if you're leading a team, right? Having individual visions for each person, so you can kind of tailor how you interact with people towards that vision. I never forget. I had a leader one time, and I said, "Do you have a vision for like where you see me going?" What you see me doing? And they said, nope. I was like, what? I got tons of visions for myself. I even have visions for them, right? Like visions where we could take the department, where we could take our team. And the perfect Bible reference when it says, without a vision, the people perish. So, when we're looking at that, we can truly perish without having the right vision and the right context to put our actions in. And I think that really helps to put everything into focus when we start with our vision. What do you think, Shana?
Absolutely. I definitely agree. There is a key factor to having a vision, or having that destination point, or where you see yourself going. So that Bible reference specifically is just because without growth, anything dies, right? So
Mhm.
without nourishment, without a goal, without growth, you will perish, and so will your families and your business. Eventually, it might not happen overnight or quickly, but it will eventually happen. You need to grow. That's what we're made to do.
Exactly. And you know what? Then that leads me to a thought, right? When we just look at the key benefits and we evaluate it, and I evaluate things from an educational leadership perspective, and this really, like, it came across my mind. And I look at it for myself personally, right, which is going forward what I'll implement when I coach educational leaders in districts and things like that, in universities. How are we measuring our success? Because that's part of the vision, that's part of the strategy. Are we measuring it by test scores? Are we measuring it by students' grades? Are we measuring it by attendance? What I think we should look at, especially when we're developing the vision, when we're developing the strategy, measure it by impact. What type of impact are we making? And I break impact down into a moniker of influence, motivation, achievement, community, right? And then the team. And then what does that look like when we put all of those components and elements together, to evaluate what that looks like? And I think, Shane, I really believe that we can reframe the way we do education, the way we evaluate education, the way we evaluate the scholar. And what better time to start than in the beginning, right? So that's why I think the vision of course, it starts at the top. and then it filters down, because you can only make so much change, on your particular level, unless there's buy-in from those that are at the top and they have the same vision you do.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it's super important for any team or any family or any institution to have a shared vision, right?
Mm,
So I do this specifically with families. There is division in family, DI meaning
mm,
two, right? So if, say, the husband or the wife have two separate visions, you're going to start having
mm,
division. And that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of conflict and just kind of a lot of things that are not really what you want in your
mm.
life. And I'm sure with the people that you deal with in institutions and universities that you deal with, I'm sure you see the same thing. When there isn't that common goal, if you will, or
Mhm.
that shared vision, there
Right.
starts to cause a lot of turmoil, right?
And that's what, I think part of having the vision will help to avoid and help to alleviate, is that
Yes.
turmoil, and that dysfunction, that discord, that dis-ease that you see so many times across so many different industries, right? I used to teach the 7 keys to harmony, and doing that, right, how do you create a harmonious environment, a harmonious
Yes.
atmosphere, to ensure that everything is working together, right? And the example I use is, if you look, I'm mind you, I'm not musical, right? I have family members that are musical, but that wasn't my gift. But I love music. And when I look at the 7 keys to harmony, when everything works well together, it's one sound, it's one note. And the
Yes.
vision that we want for ourselves and our organizations, our institutions, our families, is to have everything in one note. Not that everything is the same, not that everyone has the same sound, but it has the same blend, right? So that we can still be who we are in the space that we're in, but it works through
Yes.
harmony. So that leads me to whole nother, I could keep going on. Does that make sense? Shane, what do you think?
That does, absolutely. So I'm going to just play off of what you said a little bit. So yes, you have, your separate personalities and you have
Mhm.
differences, and everyone is unique and has their own strengths and their own weaknesses and their own mannerisms, right? And
Yeah.
that's all beautiful and unique and great. But to kind of play off of the music thing that you just said, you can always tell when there is one person in a band, or if you're
Mm,
live, you can always tell if there's someone who's off. So to be able to make that beautiful song, if you will, everyone has to do their part. So everyone kind of, the drummer has his part, and the guitarist has their part, the singer has their part, and everyone works together with that common goal of creating that song or the music that they're playing for that particular show. So I really like that you said that, and I'm going to start using that. So I'm stealing that one from you. That was a
still,
good one.
still,
That was a good
still.
one.
Thank you. And that's, I think, my favorite one, right? Because when I looked at aligning my own life, how did I want it to sound? So, since you brought it up, right? So, when I look at harmony, I break that down as well. So, it's just not the word harmony, but there's the elements to harmony, right? First is the H, and I should have wrote it down so I could spell it out properly. Where's my iPad? So, first you look at the H, right? And that's the healing part of who you are or what you're doing. So when you look at it from the step, and I'm opening my iPad so I can write it down so I don't misspell harmony like on live on the air, right?
That's
so
totally good.
I'm a tactile person, right? Everything for me is tactile. I have to touch. I have to touch. So H is the healing, and you heal from the inside out. You can't heal from the outside inward. It's an inward work. It's a self reflection. It's a self awareness, and that starts with yourself, right? That starts with the leader, so that you can heal your institution. And then the A is for alignment. How do you align what you're doing with what has to be done, so that you make sure that they're congruent, and so they're always flowing in the same way? And then, of course, you got the reflection, or you can say retro, right? You look back and you see what you did and how you could do it better, so that you can have feet forward instead of feet back in the future. And then the mindset.
Absolutely.
If you have the right mindset, you can do anything. The mindset is what will change and redirect everything you do in life. And then I look at the oneness, right? Who are you one with? And I always recommend that you have a higher power, higher than yourself. And then you can also look at oneness from making sure your organization is one with one another. And then the N is for newness, right? You renew every day. You don't take on the old and keep it going forward, right? You take on the new constantly over and over again. And the why is, which is my favorite, is saying yes, saying yes to all things. Yes, it can be done. Yes, you can do it. So you put yourself in a state of acceptance. You put yourself in a state of readiness so that you're always available and always open. So, for example, if you're a professor, right? And you have a student that's having an issue, maybe turning in the work on time. Well, how can we come to a resolution? How can we get you the help you need? Yes, we can get it done. I know this is what, the syllabus says, but yes, we can find a way to do it. Or if you're working with small kiddos, and oh, I forgot to pay my son's lunch. I just thought about that. It's lunchtime. Like he needs lunch. I just had a moment. Oh my God, he needs lunch.
Welcome to live broadcasting. See, you just had a moment. So this is the important thing about listening and talking. You realize things.
I had a
Girl,
moment.
your son's going to be starving today.
He's not going to starve. They're going to feed him. He goes to a great school. If I don't know anything about that administration, they're going to feed my baby. Trust me. They're going to
Oh my goodness. That is epic. That is awesome. I love you, Vet.
This was so unscripted.
This is awesome.
I was
like, but that's the beautiful thing about going live. That's the awesome thing, and why I love to watch live broadcasts, because you see these little bloopers, if you will, right?
I was so in the flow, Shayna, and I really thought about this lunch. I'm like,
you were literally just it was just coming out nice and easy, and then you were like, oh, wait a minute, what just happened?
What just happened? I promise I told him about that earlier. Oh my goodness. And so I got to get his lunch money paid, right? So usually his sisters make his lunch, and she didn't make it today because she stayed up late doing her schoolwork. So, oh my God, that is so funny. So yeah, I have to get his lunch money paid. That's the vision for today. Get his lunch money paid. That's the
goal. That is Vet's goal for today.
That is Yvette's goal for 2024, is getting the young man's lunch money paid. So yeah, we'll get that. So yeah, so saying yes, right? Someone is going to say yes to him at school. Someone is going to say, yes, young man, you can eat today. We'll just build your mom.
Someone is going to find a way. Someone will find a way for him.
Someone will find a way, right? And that's what it's all about. That's what having the vision and the right strategies in place is part of the mindset of saying yes, making sure you have the opportunities available. So yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I love that you just said all of that and just had yourself a moment, because I think that just highlights just such a beautiful part of life, right? Like, we're in the midst of just doing things, or we're in the midst of, working or doing a podcast or whatever it is that you do on a day-to-day basis that consumes a good amount of your time. And then you just kind of get sidetracked a little bit.
Exactly.
With just these kind of thoughts that come up. So I always tell my families, or specifically with kind of personal people that I work with. So if you are working on personal development, and I think you have brought this up before too, carry that notebook around and a pencil or a pen, so that when you're at work, or when, something just pops into your brain, you can just jot that down real quick. Because I have those Vet moments all the time where I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot to order that, or I forgot to do this for the kids' school, or I don't know, forgot to even switch the laundry to the dryer or something. It could be something, but that's really important. So that notebook and pen is, for me, a big part of my strategy as far as my growth and a vision for making each year better. Is really just, for me, it's easier for me to jot things down when I think about them. So I have these little notepads that literally are just all over the house.
Really?
That I can, so I'll jot it down. Like if I'm upstairs cleaning, for example, and I think of something kind of like that, I have to pay, the lunch bill or whatever it is. I'll just jot that down, and I'll finish doing what I'm doing, jot things down as I think about it. And then I'll take that little notebook paper downstairs and I'll put it in my calendar. I'll just start checking off, the things that I need to do. So I think that's a really important part too, of
Ooh,
And it could just be something that you're thinking as far as your vision. There's epiphany moments that you have sometimes while you're getting ready in the morning, or I don't know, you're
yeah.
reading a book and you'll think of something, or just like it'll add to that vision, or that'll just kind of be like, man, like I would really love that in my life or at
Mm.
work or for my kids or whatever the case may be. Jot it down.
Exactly. And it's cool that you said that because you have to know where your place is that will help you generate that value, generate that vision. I know for me it's in the shower or it's around any body of water. And as we know, if you don't know, I'll tell everyone, I love, love, love water, right? I love large bodies of moving water, the ocean. Lakes really don't do it for me because it doesn't move like it doesn't have the waves like the ocean does. And so, like, I know one time, did I tell you I put myself on a timeout one year? It was maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. Put myself on a
No, you
timeout.
didn't.
I had a mommy timeout, right? Well, it's not a mommy time. It was the Yvette timeout because I just need to take a moment to gather myself, to get my vision together, to know what I wanted, right? And so I went down to Florida, and it was so beautiful just being on the beach. And so for me, when I truly want to clarify my vision, that I want to implement a new strategy, I get around large bodies of moving water, and it just clarifies it for me, right? And it's something about that with the water that's refreshing, even in the shower. If I need a moment, I go refresh in the shower, you know. And so those that are watching that saw my blooper a few minutes ago, his lunch money has been paid. So I just paid it like right now. Thank God for
You weren't
technology,
even
right?
jotting that down for afterwards. You're like, I'm just doing it as we go along.
I have to
That
do
is
it.
that
Like,
is amazing. That's multitasking at its finest. I
yes,
will throw in something to one of your points here, though, but kind of the same thing with knowing where you're at and knowing where you're
mm,
going. I think
right.
that the kind of a huge flaw that most of us have is
Mm,
that we don't take that time out to really stop and really just kind of
mm,
sit with our thoughts and really just kind of take a break from all of the chaos that kind of goes on a daily, and really just spend time with ourselves to
yeah,
truly kind of decide, like, what do I want? What
yeah,
are my goals? Like, where am I going? If you
exactly.
are, a president of an institution, or you're a principal, like, what is the
Hmm.
vision for my school or for my
Right.
staff or for my family even? I mean, you really need that moment of pause. You need
Yeah,
that time out, if you will. You have to pull over to the side of the road sometimes before you just kind
yeah.
of keep going right through the stop sign and just pick left or right. Like sometimes you just need to sit still for a little bit.
And you know what, Shayna, this is the thing. So you could start off with one vision, and then that
Mhm.
vision can morph into something completely different. And sometimes it's okay to change what you initially set forward, and knowing that it's fine if it has to adjust and it has to go in a different direction, because what may suit you at one point in your life may not be suitable for your next opportunity or your next moment or your next segment of life. So then what does that look like, and how do you get comfortable with that? And I truly recommend just being comfortable with who you are and being comfortable with the vision for yourself, and allow yourself permission to change that
Yes.
vision when it's needed, right? Because I think a lot of times we think, okay, we have a vision, we have this set forth, and I can't change it. It has to stay in its place. But I think one of the key strategies is being okay with changing that vision when it needs to be changed. And like you said, that's where I piggyback on what you said, right? Just sitting with yourself, because we're growing. We are not individuals that are meant to be stuck in the same place, but we're meant to just be static and constantly moving, constantly changing over time and evolving. Like, I don't know if this happened to you, Shayna, but I've had people to say, well, you might change. Yeah, I should change. Like, I'm supposed to be changing. I shouldn't
Yes.
stay the same. And if I'm staying the same, what am I doing with my life where I have to keep with
Great.
the same vision, the same thoughts? And no, I should be growing and changing and moving and just being dynamic with every thought, with every moment, with every concept. That's my thinking.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad that you said that. I actually had this conversation with Gianna the other day
Mm,
because my kids and I, just as a family, with the end of one year, the beginning of a new year, it's just such a good time to kind of pause and reflect.
yeah,
And there's some questions that I like the kids to answer and answer for myself. So I do kind of like to I like what you said about giving yourself permission, right? Because I
yeah,
think especially, and I don't know if it's like this when you talk to your kids, but I think sometimes they feel like, and adults might feel this way too, they feel like once they set their mind on something or once they have a goal for the year, it's an end all be all.
yeah,
And I just had this conversation with Gianna because she was kind of feeling like that. And I had the conversation with her about being okay with pivoting, and
yeah.
that it's certain experiences or certain people or certain things will come in to your life or
Mm,
to your job or to your family at a certain point, and that's what it's there for. It's
okay.
there for you to pivot and start to change and
Yes.
start to learn and adapt to what's greater and what comes. And I know we're both obviously Christians, so if anyone else believes in a higher power or in God, I was telling Gianna that such a huge thing for me in my faith is just to have not anxiety or
Mm,
not stress or not worry that it's like, my
yes.
gosh, I have to
Ooh,
stick with this or I have to do this or I have to follow that. I truly trust in the process, right? So I trust that
ooh,
what's meant to happen is going to be. And even if things don't work out, if I don't know, say that I try something and it epically fails or a goal doesn't work
mm,
out or whatever the case may be, I trust in the fact that he will work things out for me. I don't have to
mhm.
worry about that. And I just allow the
Yes.
experiences to help me learn and help me change for the direction where he sees my life going.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's funny you said that about the kids and having them pivot. So I have a boy and a girl. And the
Mhm.
girl not necessarily is okay with the pivoting. She always wants to stick with one thing, and it's like, okay, but I changed my mind. And this is my parenting. It's okay. Who cares? Like as long as you're not
Yes.
doing something illegal, immoral, who cares? So like one day she'll want to go in the Navy, right? She's like, but I might change. Well, you're 15. I hope you change your mind. You're like, well, I want to go live in Africa. Okay, go live, go get a visa, go get a passport, go live in Africa. Okay, who cares? I'll visit you. Like there's FaceTime,
Right.
right? So she goes through these moments of tug of war with accepting that it's okay to change. I said, all you really have to do is do what makes you happy. And that's going to guide you. Now, if you have a natural inclination to do wrong, then let's rethink this, But if your
Right.
desires are good and they're right, it's okay. And then my son, he'll change at the drop of a dime. So it's like
He,
one
he's
minute
just
he's
going
this,
with the flow.
yeah, one minute he's going to the NFL, one minute he's gonna do business, one minute I said, son, I don't care. Mom will be proud of you, whatever you do, as long as it's not illegal, as long as it's not immoral. I'm gonna be okay. He's like, but if I don't
Yes.
go to the NFL, I can't retire you. I said, son, that is not your responsibility. Would it be nice? But it's not your responsibility, and it's completely okay. And you made me think of something else that just trusting the process, knowing that God will get you through it, right? And so, oh, I don't want to mess up her name, so I'm going to just call her Dr. Priscilla. She's a pastor at one of the churches here in Dallas. And maybe it's Shriver, ooh, Schaefer. I don't remember the last name. I can't call it, but I know her first name is Priscilla. And she was saying that this is the prayer she prays. Shayna, are you ready for this one? This was
I am.
this changed my life, right? It's about to change your life too. And it's on my TikTok page. I think I put it on TikTok or somewhere. I think it's on TikTok or Instagram. But she said, God, give me this or something better. I had
Yes, I love that.
never, ever, ever, ever thought of telling God, give me this or something better. Because I know for me growing up, when I looked at faith, I was always afraid of just having the faith that God would do something. because I always thought it was going to be worse than what I wanted. But that changes how I even look at things now. Like, God, give me this or something better, right? And knowing that God is going to do what you ask, or it's going to be something totally better than you ever thought possible, that for me relieves all of my stress. Like I have like, okay, I'm okay because it's gonna be good and it's gonna be amazing and it's gonna be abundant, right? And that vision of what he can possibly do is like really exciting. As you can see, I'm excited about what
Yes,
that vision looks
it's
like.
very exciting. And that's actually one of the 6 questions that we usually ask as a family. I actually
Mm,
stole this from Mel Robbins. They're the 6 questions she uses with her family.
okay.
And I just love her anyway. But so she has this point where you reflect over the last year. And
Okay.
I tweak it, I kind of tweak it to obviously our personal family a little bit, but the idea of it is to reflect on the last 12 months.
Okay.
Really sit there, pause, reflect on it. And I always ask the kids, like, look back and see, what did you want
What did
and
you want?
what was
Mm,
something better or something else that happened, like
okay.
just to give them some experiences so that they can reflect and go back to that when they're in that state of
Ooh,
worry, or when they really want something, or they really have what they think is this vision or
yes.
goal, and something could pivot. And that's kind of how I
Mm,
try to marry the two. So you can pivot, because look, in the past year, remember you wrote that down in your notebook. You wanted this, but situations or events or whatever had happened. But what you got as a result was so much
yeah.
better than just what you had envisioned to begin with, right? So
Yes.
trust the process. I think that's huge. Trust the process.
Trust the process. And you know what? I mean, because we're pivoting right in a whole different direction because it's making me think of vision. And so I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, one of my cousins had the idea of doing a God can. And we took, I think at the beginning of the year, we took a Pringles can. Of course, we had all the Pringles because it was really good. And of course, we cleaned it out. But then we decorated it, and it's called a God can. And then we put in on sticky notes things that we want God to do. And then so we could take them out at the end of the year and see what God can do, right? What can be done. And I still have that can to this day. I need to put more in it this year. But just
That is
having,
amazing.
yes, just being in that state of openness, like one when we talk about the 6 keys to harmony, the 6 keys to leading in harmony, the 6 keys to a powerful vision is having the yes. Yeah, yes, I can. Like, yes, it can be done. Yes, we can make it happen. And then just to bring it back, right, to educational leadership. Yes, it can be done, right? Because there's so many opportunities where the scholar needs so much, right? Yes, we can have
Yes.
fun. Yes, these kids can learn, right? When I think about it from the corporate perspective, people want to be around people they know, like, and trust, right? And that's what
Amen.
the
Yes.
vision builds, where you know the person, you know what they're going to do, you like what they're doing. That's the buy-in, and then you trust that it's from a place of acceptance. It's from a place of great desire, and it's from a place of authenticity, right? Because you're trusting the person to have good intent, right? um and when I was at my previous organization, they're saying always trust that people have positive intent, right? That's the trusting. That's what the vision does. Oh my goodness, Shane, I'm just thinking of so
Yes.
much. Like, that's what the vision does. It leads with positive intent, so that you know that your leaders have your best interests at heart. And that's what leaders need to convey to their teams, that I have your best interest at heart. Because watch this vision. Look at this vision, and the vision that we've crafted together, right? We hope that leaders would craft, like you said, you sit down with your family, right? That you craft it together. Like, what is the vision that we're going to do and implement for this year?
Absolutely. And I just love what you said so much. And I know that we have touched upon kind of like some key points there. But that leadership role is huge.
It's
That
huge.
vision is huge. And I just want to throw out there, because I know we're running out of time, really quick. Whether it's, I obviously work with families and marriages, and you obviously, you do strategic leadership. But it's all the same, right? It's dealing
Mm,
with people, and it's
dealing with
still
people.
relationships at the end of the
Yes.
day. So what
Yes.
what you really want is to be able to get away from what is considered society's norms, right? So
Yeah.
schools don't do this or schools don't do that. Well, say yes. Like you have a
Yeah.
vision, it might not be what every other, institution or school is doing. It might not be what every other teacher is doing. It might not be what every other family is doing. But
Mm-hmm.
say yes.
Say
If that's
yes.
placed on your heart, if that vision is something that
Mm,
you see, that's
mm-hmm.
your vision.
That's
There
yours.
people are not going to have that vision for you. It's your job to see it and then
Yeah.
create it.
Yes.
Even if it's not popular or even if it's not being done elsewhere, right?
Yes.
So I just want to
Oh,
tell people, don't be afraid. Step out there and just do it.
just do it. And you know what? That makes me think of the book by John C. Maxwell. I know I have it in my library, but one of the things he talks about is having big thinking, big picture thinking, and thinking about what is possible. What is possible for your life, right? Like expand your vision bigger than what you can see. Maybe that's why I like the ocean. I think that's why I like the ocean, Shayna, because we took a cruise last spring break and I was standing out on the balcony, and my eyes shining like it was bigger than I could imagine, right? Like it was further, like I couldn't, there was no end in sight. That's how big it was. Like it was no end in sight, and that you can't see where it ends, right? Because it just goes forever, forever, and it's like infinite, right? And that's how our visions
Yes.
can be. They can be infinite, they can be big. Of course, then we implement the strategy which breaks it down into smaller increments that makes it achievable and obtainable. So you make it big vision, and then you just break it down incrementally so that you can look and see how it can be done, when it can be achieved, and see like what you've done, right? So I teach a
Absolutely.
framework called Scrum, and in the Scrum framework, you look at it every 2 weeks, right? You look at it iteratively, and you also do a daily stand up, right? You could do that daily with your life. Just look at it and see what you did yesterday towards that vision. What are you doing today towards that vision? What are you doing tomorrow towards that vision? And then, is there any roadblocks? Are there any obstacles? Is there any risk to you not achieving that vision? So you're constantly taking evaluation. So you don't wait till the end of the quarter, the end of the year, and like, man,
Exactly.
how
Well,
much
at
did
that
I
point, it's
achieve?
too late, right?
It's too
At that
late.
point, it's hard to pivot once it's already done. So it's super important. And I love that you just said that too. Like I'm just yesing you to death over here in my head. This is what I do with my families. So it
Mm,
might seem really far away, or it might seem like there's no way my life or my family or work
yeah.
or whatever could be like that. There is a way though. And I don't
Yes.
care if maybe you just want to get healthy, take it into a bite-sized, little bite-sized piece. So
Yeah.
tomorrow or today, I will have an extra 1 or 2 bottles of water. It's bite-sized. I can do
Yes.
that. Then that starts building the momentum, but you have to do something every day to get that
Something.
needle to move. Something.
Do
Oh, I'm so
something.
glad that you said we could do a whole other episode on just that.
I mean,
I
just
love that.
that alone is powerful
I
because
know.
it's the small deliverables that'll make a big difference. So when I look at the Scrum framework, right, and I love frameworks because it's simple, it's lightweight, and it's easy to implement, right? So when you're looking at it from a Scrum perspective, the team, that's where it comes from, the team dynamics, a small Scrum team, just like your family, right? Just like your leaders in education, right? Just a small group of people, right? And you look at what are the small deliverables that we can do maybe every 2 weeks so that we don't get overwhelmed by releasing it all at one time. So what happened in technology, which was the development of the Scrum framework, is that there was a waterfall method, right? You, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? Like build, we're going to design this, we're going to say we're going to design this, we have the plans, and then we're going to build all of it, and then we don't assess anything, we don't do a retro, we don't look at what we're doing, and then we realize there's so much that's wrong with it, and it's outdated, and it's not manageable, and so we never complete anything, right? We're looking at it iteratively. we're able to understand what's wrong with it, how we can improve it, what can be done better, what tweaks can be made. And then if we bring it back to the school, right? How can we share it with one another? How can we implement different ideas, different strategies, just different techniques to make it better? And then you look at the benefits of it so that you make sure that you're delivering value to yourself and to your team so that it's beneficial for everyone, right? And I think that that can work in the family as well.
Yeah, it absolutely can. So that's a huge thing that I like to do is really just breaking things down. And
Mm,
now I'm trying to think of what order that I put it in because I write everything down. But it's basically stop, start, continue.
I love
So
it.
I
Yes.
told you I have to write things down or I forget everything. But stop, start, continue are the three basic
Mm,
principles. So I've been doing a lot of stuff, obviously, with it being the new year, with 2024 with families specifically. So what is it that was not working? So
right.
the first three questions are the reflection. That's your pause
Okay.
points. That's your seeing where you're at, which we already discussed earlier. And then the last three that we go over is really just, where are you going? What's that vision? So stop, start, continue is basically what was not working. And
Mm,
that's kind of your part of your reflection. What wasn't
okay.
going well? What are we going to stop doing this
Yeah.
year as a family or as a school or as a team or whatever the case may be? What is not working? What are we going to stop? And then
Okay.
starting. What are we going to start doing? Or what
Ah, I
is
like
something that we're
it.
going to do differently, right? So, what are we going to start implementing to get closer to that goal or to make that vision become a reality? And then what
Yes.
are we going to continue with? So,
Yeah.
what worked really well? What
What
made
worked well?
people thrive? Like what was going
Yeah.
on there? And that's what you're going to continue doing. And I
Yes.
just think that continue process of what you're already doing well and you're
Yes.
continuing to do it will help to build the momentum and kind of that inspiration or drive that you need to start implementing the new stuff that you're going to start doing for the year.
Wow.
And I think that there's a lot of people that just get stuck where it just seems, well,
Mm,
it's hard. Well, this is what I'm used to doing. Well, this is just how it's been. But to your point, you got to just say yes. And that's
yes.
part of finding the way. Don't be
Yes.
afraid to try. You can try 10 different things, 100 different things. 99 of them might not work. You
Yeah.
will eventually come across the one
The
thing
one
that
thing.
will make that vision
Mm,
become a reality. You just got to
yes.
try.
You know what I thought about too, Shane, and what you were saying, just trying. It's about having that support, right? Who is your support system as you're trying to achieve this? So, I love you because you're my neighbor. And one thing I love that you do, especially in the springtime, I know it's getting cold now, but you'll text me and say, "Hey, can your kids come ride bikes with my kids?" Right? So it's like, and of course, I'm like, "Yes, they can. Send them." But that support system, right? Because you said, why should the kids be alone in this? Let's do it together. And then before you know it, it's like the block. It's like our cul-de-sac is on this walk. And I'm coming this spring, just so you know. But usually I'm doing homework, but I'm gonna try to break away. But before you know it, you have this full support team and full support system that is on the journey with you, right? And what does that look like for your team? So you have to find the right support in order to be successful when you're on the journey to transformation, when you're on the journey to making your vision a reality, when you're on the journey to find a strategy that works best for your organization. It takes support. And sometimes that support is not in your immediate ecosystem. Sometimes you have to create your own ecosystem in order to find the support you need, right? For instance, my neighbor Shayna is like a great ecosystem and a part of that
Thank
support,
you.
and it may not be in other places, right? But you find that support and you find where you can truly and authentically be you and find the measures in order to streamline what you want and what your desires are, and to get and to give you the strength that you need to persevere. I had to talk with my hands because my
Yes,
hands are all over the
absolutely.
place.
I do the same thing, and I'm noticing that I'm, like, flapping my face a couple times. I'm not hitting myself, people, it's just I got
And
this
that's
thing
me
going.
too. I'm like talking in front of my face and everything.
I know, I mean, I'm Portuguese, right? So we just always the hands are always going, it doesn't matter whether
Always
you're
moving.
angry, whether you're happy, they're just always moving.
Yes.
But I'm really glad that you kind of brought something up here. So you brought up a few different key points. So that
Mm.
community,
Yes.
that support system, I call it tribes as far as, families
Yeah.
are concerned. You have to be willing to look outside of kind of what you have immediately available. So, for
Yeah.
example, with families, so if your husband is not the most supportive person, if your kids are not super supportive, um, maybe it's at work, you just don't have a good support system. Be willing to find someone. It can be a neighbor, it can be just somebody at work, it can be anyone that is going to give you the strength and that motivation and that kind of pat on the back and the good job and kind of the push forward that you need. Your relationships in your life are so important, and who you surround yourself with and who you choose to listen to and who you choose to spend time with is going to either keep you stagnant, stuck, move you backwards, or it's going to push you forward into the life
Mm.
that you envision for yourself. And I just think that's a super important thing that you had kind of brought up there. So those relationships are important. And then something else that you said, and I thank you for kind of noticing that, but come the springtime, even in the summer, I mean, sometimes it's like, hey, can the kids come and swim? Or do the kids want to play ball? Or do the kids just want to, I don't know, hang out in my garage and be weird together and do
Yeah.
whatever the kids do? But sometimes it
Mm.
just takes that one person to
Yeah.
kind of break the norm, if you will. So
Yeah.
everyone's busy with their lives. Everyone's got their things when they're home, especially on weekends or, breaks from school and whatnot. But it just takes that one person, and it could even be the kid. And this is kind of, you've said this before, where kids can be leaders. There can be one kid in the block, right, that just kind of sends out a text, just kind of like, hey, I'm I'm lonely. I'm just kind of bored. Do y'all
Mm.
want to go for a walk? Do you want to just, I don't know, go play ball at Miss Shayna's house or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So just sometimes it just takes that one person to kind of speak up and just kind of
Yeah.
help to bring everything
Mm.
together. Um, and I know that you do that a lot too. So I'll let you go off from there.
No, and it's funny you said that because my son is that person. When we first moved to
Yes,
this
he is.
neighborhood, he's like, "Oh yeah, so and so." I'm like, "How do you know that person?" He's like, "I just saw him. I was just out there taking out the trash, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, okay." Like, don't get kidnapped, son. And then like, "Oh yeah, we know the new neighbors down there." I'm like, "How do you know them?" Right? Like
He
how
went
do
he went right up to Richard.
and that
He
is
went
him,
right
right?
up to
That's
him. Yes.
that's what you want though. That's the leaders we want for the future that create the vision of the world that we should have, right? That vision of the world where we are together, we're building that community, we're building that friendship. Because really, had it not been for the leadership of my son, I probably wouldn't have gotten out and engaged with the neighbors, right? When we first moved, I'm like, well, let me see who he's talking to. Let me, I need to find out who, and he has full blown conversations with people. I'm like, how do you know all that about those people? You were only out there for 5 minutes, So, and
Yes, but he talks.
he said, "What?"
He's a talker, so he'll just ask questions. And I love when the kids are here, and your kids are great to talk to because they're
Oh, thank
they're so
you.
easy to talk to, and they just want to know more. And I mean, I don't know, I could be making dinner or something, and they'll just be like, well, why do you use those spices instead of this one? And they're curious, right? And
Very curious.
they're so calm natured, but
Mm,
they're just so easy to talk to. They're very, very personable kids, which I love because you don't see that a lot these days with the
thank
kids,
you.
and how they're being brought up. They're more distant. They're more
Mhm,
separated. And if you remember when we first met, when we had first moved here from Boston, I was really nervous because I didn't know what the people were like down here. I was just kind
mhm.
of used to my community and my tribe up there, and what the general population was like. And coming down to Texas, I mean, you can only go based off of what you hear people say that have visited, right? So
Yeah.
it was awesome to have Josh just run right up and just be like, "Oh, hey, can I use your basketball hoop? Like, so what do you have kids? Like, are they old enough to hang out with me? How long have you been here? Okay, like, you guys staying for a while? Do you move a lot?" Like, the kid was just talking, and it was so great. And then I'm looking at him like, "You're now in my house. It's been 5 minutes. Like, I just invited you in. We're eating. We're like having snacks." And he's just such a good time. And I just remember feeling just an instant like peace about that, right? And he's just a kid, but this is the point of you can be just a kid and just make such an impact on someone. And I said, hey, what's your mom's number? Let me make sure she knows that you're here and doesn't think you just, ran off in someone's truck. And that's kind of how you and I started talking. But, if more people could be like that, it would just be amazing. And then you'd get so much more visions, I think, because
Yeah.
everyone would just kind of be sharing those ideas or just communicating and brainstorming and just learning, right? Just talking to each other and just learning about
And
people.
let me tell you why I can't stop laughing, Shayna, because all the neighbors invite him in to eat. Like I said,
Girl,
bro, you
because
just
he's awesome.
I said, you're supposed to just go play, right? He's like, but they told me I could. I think he intentionally goes around dinner time, right? Because he knows mama doesn't cook. She's going to order DoorDash, right? So it's like everyone invites him to eat. Like, come and eat. Yeah, you could stay, So, but think about how that creates and opens up his vision and his world, right? Like you said, you're from Portuguese. We have other neighbors that are from a different place and a different location, a different culture. And so they're able to see a world that's beyond what they do, what they know, beyond just the DoorDash that mom will order. So like they get to see something different, right? They get to see something outside of themselves. So as they develop into strong leaders in the community that they're in, they see something bigger, something better, something different. And I always tell people when I grew up in California, I loved it because my vision of the world was completely different. My strategy for how I interact with people is completely different. I want to know people that aren't like me, that don't necessarily think like me, so that I can learn more about you. And it always leads to something different than I've ever expected, right? Which is a great strategy for creating the vision. If you have a community, if you have a tribe that's different from you, think about the things you can do, Shayna. Think about the visions that you can have because everyone has different experiences, right? Which of course leads to
Yes.
another diversity and inclusion, but that's a
Yes,
whole
but
different topic.
it's a whole new world, right? So you can
Yeah.
look into a whole new world. It's like when you go to a different country for the first time, it's a whole new way of life. And all I
Yeah.
can think about right now, for some reason, is The Little Mermaid. It might be because I have a toddler. I'm sorry, people, but I'm thinking of The Little Mermaid, right? A whole
Yeah.
new world. She sings that song. She lives in the ocean, but she has
Mm,
this vision or this dream of what it could be like.
what it could
What do
be.
other
Yes.
people live like, right? And then
Yes.
there's a state of acceptance. And I think that's
Mm,
super important to have that vision, but also to be accepting of someone's differences.
yes.
Someone might have strengths that might be your weaknesses. That's okay. Draw
That's
from that.
okay. Draw.
Even if they're below you, so to speak, on the corporate ladder or whatever the case may be, you
Yeah.
can learn something from them. You can learn things from your kids. I learned things from my toddler who can't even go
Yeah.
to the bathroom by herself yet. But
Wow.
people can teach you things
Mm,
if you just pay attention and have a truly compassionate, kind of understanding um, kind of mindset, if you will. I guess that goes back to mindset
yeah.
and really just looking at every person, every individual, every culture with what can I learn from this
What can I
person?
learn?
What are
Yes.
they doing that's really working well for them? What are their strengths and what can I draw from that so I can just keep adding that to my toolbox, right? And
Yeah.
not being
Ooh.
judgmental where it's like, hey, they do things differently. What do you mean? She does DoorDash every night. Like, and there's a lot of people, I think the majority of people, like, they get very judgmental. I've been
Very.
judged. I've been judged many times. I'm sure you have. But
Yes.
it's like, just let's open up the world of acceptance, and
Yes.
what works really well for someone else might not
Yeah.
work for you, but it might also work too. So maybe I'll DoorDash once a week because I don't like cooking every day. So
Yes.
do you see
And
what
maybe
I'm
I
saying?
might
Like
cook
you can
once a week.
draw. Yeah,
Oh, maybe.
exactly. So it's like you can draw from other
Yeah.
people.
Shayna, maybe we can do like one day where we have like family night and we could cook together. Like maybe like on a
Yes.
Friday or something where we cook something together. Like we could switch off houses and we could cook together and like you could teach me a recipe and I'll teach you something from DoorDash.
I've never used DoorDash. You can just teach me how
Are
to
you
use it. I have never done DoorDash in my life.
Oh, Shayna,
Never.
we have fine dining.
I've never gone on an Uber, right? My dad is super Portuguese. My parents are immigrants. He calls it a Hoober. but like, he doesn't even know how to do that. But he's like, oh, you've
Really?
never taken a Uber? I'm like, no, Dad. Like, I don't take Ubers like anywhere. I've
Wow.
never done that stuff. Right?
We'll
So
have to
that's
Uber
something I could
somewhere
learn
one
from you.
day.
We
Oh yeah.
will, because that's an experience I've never had, right? So
Wow.
that's something you could teach me, and it seems so insignificant, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it will give you just an experience to draw from, and it might even just be funny. Like, remember that time we took an Uber to, I don't know, wherever, right?
Yeah. Go. Let's go to Dallas. Let's take an Uber to Dallas one day.
Just whatever. Like, let's just
Yeah.
do something, right? And I love that you said that about cooking together. And obviously, we know that my parents are immigrants from Portugal. Food for my culture is so large in the
Wow.
connection process. Everything revolves around the kitchen. You could have
Mm,
tiny houses in Portugal, but the kitchen was the majority of the house. That's where
it
everyone
is.
gathered.
Wow.
And that's probably why we invite your son in to eat all the time, because that's our love language. We're like, well,
Wow.
here, just like keep eating. Like, what do you need? Can I make you something? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of our way of just saying, like, you're welcome into our house. Like, we love that you're here. That's our way of accepting other people and kind of connecting with them
Wow.
through food.
That is so.
So,
That is so awesome, Shannon. Let me tell you, when I think about vision, right? Because I think it was
yes,
maybe 2 weeks ago that we were on here and we're discussing something. I don't know where the conversation was in that point, and you said you should do a podcast because of your vision
yes.
for me. I started my podcast, and it drops tomorrow,
Did
right?
you really?
Yes,
No
and
way. I'm
Shayna, I
so
did.
excited for
I
you.
have to drop you the link, Shayna. This and you. Okay, so you have to be on my podcast too, because like that's a whole different conversation. So
Yes, it is.
the great thing, and I say thank you for your vision for me, because I think that
You're
night I
welcome.
really went and started it, and I said, okay, I know what I'm going to do. So my first episode drops tomorrow, and it's with a scholarship mama, and one I wanted to, because I've already talked with her, interviewed her. I think she was on a live with me, but I wanted that to be my first episode because her vision for children to go to school, her vision for children to not have to pay for school, the vision that she had for her family of we're going to all be educated, because she's very educated. Her husband's educated. Tell me about her kids. They're educated, and they're educated at what they love, right? But that vision that you have for me, which created something totally like it was, it's divine, right? And I know it's like from God, as we talked about before. But I know it's the vision that
Yes.
God has for me. Shayna, when I tell you, so many things have transpired since I started that podcast. I think I've talked to maybe now 7 to 10 people. Shayna, people I don't even
That's
know. I just
amazing.
looked them up on LinkedIn, right? Looked them up on
Oh my
LinkedIn or
goodness. I'm
TikTok,
so excited.
and I would just either see something that they posted or like looked at their bio. I'm like, I just want to talk to them. I want to talk to them. Either they've led something, some way, not necessarily from a standpoint of having a position, right? It's not like, oh, I'm having a high ranking, I'm the VP. Well, whatever you lead, Shayna, some of the most amazing people, some of the most amazing connections. And I told my son, I said, this is morphing into something that's totally beyond me. Like, I don't even know what this is about, but because someone had a vision for me, and I took that vision, that big vision, right? And I made it incremental and I made it small. And it's like now it's dropping. And who knows what will come of it? Because it's been amazing. And it's only been like 2 weeks. And I've talked to so many different people. And the world is so expansive. It's like my world is opening up. And the people I'm talking to are amazing people that I would have never, ever been connected to had I not taken your vision to heart and took a hold of that vision to implement the strategy to get it done. So I say thank you for the
Absolutely.
vision.
You're so well. I'm so excited. Like, I am so excited for you. I love that you took a leap of faith, because I know that's something you were talking about before, and I didn't even know that that was something that you were kind of thinking of, or that was kind of on your
Yeah.
heart before. But there's some things I wanted to point out with what you said. You took a leap of faith, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I know that that was on your. We knew this after I had said it to you, but this is what I meant by not being judgmental and really looking at
Mm.
someone, seeing their strengths and seeing, their
Yeah.
weaknesses, but then drawing, like, bringing them up. So that was me
Mm.
just in a normal, I mean, me and Vet have these conversations that just lead all over the place, but that was me just basically saying, hey, this is a big strength that you have. And
Wow.
I can see it being on the outside looking in. So I want to call that strength out. And
Ooh.
I really want to give you a vision. Like, you should do
Wow.
something like this. I didn't know if that was on your heart or not to do, but it was just a little seed, if you will, that I just wanted to plant because you have such a strength in how you
Wow.
speak. You speak very well.
Thank
You can
you.
connect to people very easily. You're very easy to understand and relate to. And that's
Thank you.
perfect for a podcast. So I think
Mm.
that's just driving the point home. Be able to see in your team, in your family, the
Mm.
strengths that someone has and
Yeah.
help pull them up. Because a lot of people have, and I do it too all the time, self-doubt. Something might be
Mm.
in your heart or in your mind where you might have thought for a year or two or three, hey, maybe I should start a podcast. I'm not really sure. You kind of have that like, oh, like it's on my heart, but I'm a little nervous, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm a little scared because
Yeah.
it's uncharted territory, really, right? Like you're kind of throwing
Yeah.
yourself completely out there to the for the
Yeah.
world. Um, so you
Mm.
just took that leap of faith and you trusted the process where you just said, hey, you know what? Maybe I should just give this a try. Maybe
Yeah.
it'll work. Maybe it won't. If nothing
Yeah.
else, Yvette, I always want you to keep this in mind, and anyone else who's listening, even if it wasn't to work out, right? Worst
Yeah.
case scenario, you still just made some amazing connections that
Yeah.
could force you to pivot in another direction later on. So there's
Yeah.
that pivot point we were talking about.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to kind of bring forward that I think is so beautiful that you do is you were able to see someone else's vision and say,
Mm.
hey, now that my vision is becoming a reality, I'm going to
Yeah.
highlight her vision. Okay. And
Yes.
that's going to just continue to let her vision grow. And I
Yeah.
think that's the beautiful thing about people and relationships, right? You
Yeah.
get the most return and the most blessings when you highlight or give to other people. And I
Oh,
think that that's why in just 2 weeks, you've kind of seen a really fast pop. And I truly think it's going to be a huge success for you. And I'm so proud of you. Like,
thank you.
I
Thank
just,
you.
I'm giving you a virtual hug right now. Like, I'm
Thank
just
you.
hugging you.
I
I'm so
receive
proud. I'm
it.
so proud.
Oh, thank you. And you
It's
know
amazing.
what, Shayna? And it's funny that you said that because that's how we started these live events, right? Because I saw
Yes.
something in you. I said, that lady is a beast. Like, she's a heavy hitter. Like, we would just have simple, we wouldn't even be talking about anything serious. And before we know it, we're in this like deep conversation, and you would leave them like, dang, she's a heavy hitter. Like, she is deep, like, and I said, oh my, I have to talk more with her just because I said that was like good and that was deep and that was a powerful like conversation.
Well, thank
And why
you.
would I not want to share that with the world? I'm like, we have to do something together. We have to be able to just collaborate, right? Which I think is the great thing about finding that community, having that vision. And then, like you said, it may not always be perfect, right? When you're implementing, leaders, oh my God, I have to say this. When you're implementing the vision, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be unsettling, and everyone is not going to want it nor buy into it. So it could be very scary to have that disappointment come in, but you have to do it. There's certain people I've reached out to that are so skeptical. I'm like, please just look at my about me or look at another video. You can see there's no scam here. And I understand the world is always scamming, right? There's so many scammers. I'm like, but I'm not one of them. I have too much to do to try to scam you. And so it just take the leap, right? I know people are scared, but I think the virtual world, I think social media has made us more skeptical, right? The access to others has made everyone so skeptical, but everyone, especially Yvette, is not out to get you, right? So yeah,
I
so
agree.
and that vision, it's going to be scary when you're implementing a new vision with your team, when you're going to try something totally off the rails, when you're that trailblazer and it's off the rails, you're going to be scared, and you're going to be scared of the rejection. But take it, because there's another day when you're going to get the yes. It's going to come. Someone's going to buy
Absolutely.
into
The
it.
yes is going to come. But I really want to, it's so funny that you say that because I say this to my kids all the time. You are not responsible for people's reaction to you. I
Yes.
also tell my kids all the time, and actually just to kind of go further on that for just a quick second, if someone is skeptical, if someone is sitting there or they're bashing you or they're just like, what is this person even talking about? That's
Yeah.
not personal. Don't take it personal, right?
Mm.
That is them responding from their past experiences, which
Wow.
actually really has nothing to do with you. So take that no, and just take it with a grain of salt and understand that that has nothing to do with your character or for you
Ooh,
personally. And you have to just let that go.
let it go.
You definitely have to just move forward with that. And another thing I want to kind of point out too is the bigger your vision is and the bigger of a leap of faith you have to take, the more rejection and pushback you're going to actually get. So
Ooh,
know that. I want people to know that. I want you to
yes,
feel it. And I want you to accept the fact that if you're getting that rejection, if people are not buying into what you're trying to sell or whatever, be okay with that. Just know that
yes.
that's because you are doing something big, right? And the bigger it is,
Mm.
the more of that rejection and pushback you're going to get. But it only takes the one yes. It
It only
usually
takes
will
the
just
one
take the one
yes.
yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
oh wow. It's just one yes. And I know we're at time. And that's what led me to say, how are you measuring your success, right? And it's not always about money. Success is not always about money, but sometimes it's just about the impact. It's just about the transformation, or it's just about the vision. And for educational leaders, it's about the future, right? Who you're impacting
Yes.
for their next step and for their next level. Shayna, we're at time. We are at an
Oh,
hour, my
no.
friend. This
All
is
right, y'all. Y'all got to figure out where you're going with 2024. And you got to leave us
yes.
some comments. Let us know.
Let us know. Let us know. We would like to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're going to implement it, because it's powerful, right? And you can have, be, or do anything that you want, as long as you believe in yourself, right? It's about the belief in who you are and what you're doing and where you want to go. So. You can do
So
it.
true.
You can truly do it. Are you still on the screen, Shayna? I pressed the button. I don't know if I.
Yes.
There we go. Were you
I'm
off the
still here.
screen? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Cool. All this technology, trying to work technology at the same time of talking is like one of those
Exactly.
things that I love to do. So I was going to show the Legendary Leadership podcast thing. I have to play with that again later because I know we're at time. So there's a way to do it and I'll figure it out. But everyone,
That's
thank
a great.
you. Huh?
Oh, I was just gonna say, is there a way maybe if someone listening on here would like the link, are you going to post that on your social media so because I'd like to check it out. I know personally, but
Oh, thank you. Yes, I will post a
you're
link.
welcome.
I know there's a way in here to like
Perfect.
post. There we go. To share your screen. I might be able to share my screen. Oh no, that's screen layout. So never mind. I can share my screen later. And of course I can post a link later on as well. And I'll post it in the chat so everyone can see it in the chat. I won't keep trying to figure out the technology here, but there's a way to share my screen. So yeah, I'll figure out that technology next time so you can see it. But the podcast is called Legendary Leaders with Coach Vet Jet. And we just talk with phenomenal leaders, whether you're an educational leader, whether you're a business leader, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, right? And you're leading your family. Like, how does that work? What does that look like? So it's for all leaders. So yeah, I'll post a chat. Thank you for supporting, Shayna. I appreciate you so much.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. It's
Yes.
been such a pleasure again. I know we always go over a little bit. I love talking to you. If anyone has any topics, throw those out there too.
I'm
Let
in
us
there.
know.
Yes.
Send us a
Yes.
message. Let us know what's going on in your life too.
Yes. Oh yeah, we would love to hear that. Most definitely. But do you have any other
Yes.
final closing thoughts, Shayna?
No, I don't. I just want everyone to kind of figure out that direction, really
Figure it
sit and
out.
chew on what we've said for a little bit. Just play it again, watch it again
It.
and really pick
Yes.
it apart. And, let's make 2024 the best year yet.
The best year yet. Oh my gosh. And it's
Yes.
always been fun talking to you. I'm Coach Vet Jet, and this is Coach Shayna DuPont. And thank you so much for joining us in
You're
another
welcome.
wonderful conversation with the coaches. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll talk soon, friends. Bye for now.
Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.